Is anyone here? Oh, good. Where three of us are gathered. Oh, four of us. Okay, good. So, welcome to ACI Course 5, How Karma Works, the last class. So before we do our prayers and get started, let's just take a minute and make our motivation as clear and strong as possible. Think about how the benefits of what we've learned in this course are, what those benefits are, and the tools we've been given for how we can work with our minds and our hearts. And today we're going to talk about how we can make our actions, the seeds that we plant with our actions of body, speech, and mind, as powerful as we can. And then how to purify those seeds that were planted by times when we harmed others or thought ill of others. Sashi Puki Jukshin Metok Dram Rira Blingshin Yinde Kempadi Sangye Shingdu Mikte Owargi Drokun Namdak Shingla Chuparsho Idam Guru Ratnam Mandalakam Niyatayami. Sangye Churam Soki Chuknam La Changchu Pardu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Chishe Kipe Sanam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Charan Soki Chuknam Lam Changchu Partu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Chishe Kipe Sanam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Churan Soki Chuknam La Jangchu Partu Dakni Kapsuchi Daki Chishe Kipe Sunam Ki Drola Pinchir Sangye Druparsho. So before we get started talking about how we can make karma more powerful and how we can purify negative seeds that we've planted, does anyone have any questions about anything we've covered before? Excuse me, my eyes are a little wonky this morning. That's a medical term. Okay, then I guess let's just dive right in. Let me find my Tibetan. Okay, great. So we're going to talk about how we can make our actions more powerful. And we're going to talk about it primarily from the aspect of the act of giving. This is giving is the first of the 6 perfections of a bodhisattva. And while, of course, normally it's the Mahayana or the great vehicle that talks about practices of a bodhisattva, but we also find it in the Abhidharma Kosha. So the first Dalai Lama, in his commentary, does talk about giving, to talk about these other aspects of karma. So giving is jinpa. And so first we'll talk about the 4 kinds of giving. Four kinds of giving. The first one is Daki Dungi Chir Jinpa. Dak. Say Dak. Dak means me or yourself. Dun Chir means for the benefit. So Daki Dungi Chir, that means for the benefit of yourself. So giving for your own benefit. So what this is referring to is you're not giving for the benefit of someone else, of course, but the example is where you go to a temple and you make an offering to the altar, or you go to a stupa, a statue representation of the Buddha's body, speech, and mind, and you make an offering there. So there's no one who's going to take benefit from that act other than yourself. There's no other, non-Buddha who's going to take any benefit from that offering. when we get up to making higher offerings and offering to enlightened beings, we're basically doing so for our own benefit. Now, does that mean it's selfish? Not necessarily so. We can be self-interested without being selfish. If our motivation is to do this act of giving, as we've talked about before, motivation plays a very strong role in our actions. So if we do giving with the motivation of wanting to reach enlightenment ourselves so that we can be of benefit to others, then that's not selfish. Self-interested, but it's also focused on others. So when we talk about the one who's giving the offering, the person giving the offering can be of two types of people. The first type of person is a normal person, like me, someone who's not yet free of desire. And when we say desire here, we are talking about desire for the desire realm. You know, we talked about the three realms of existence in the wheel, in the cycle of suffering. Where if you are who you appear to be, we're all in the desire realm. So we talked about, I can't remember what class it was, a couple of classes ago, I think, we talked about there are two ways to get rid of desire for the desire realm. Does anybody remember? One of them was a worldly way, and the other one transcends the world. Does that help ring any bells? Pei-Ling, that's a good guess, but it's not bodhicitta. Remember, we're in an Abhidharma text, and they don't talk about bodhicitta so much. Class 7, that's good. Thank you. So one of them was the worldly way to get rid of desire is to be in deep meditation. When we're planting seeds in deep meditation for taking a rebirth in the form realm or formless realm. So that's called a worldly path, because that we stop our desire for this realm, the desire realm, for only a short period of time. It's not stable, right? It can easily, desire for this realm can easily come back. And then the path that transcends the world is direct perception of selflessness. And it is only through first having this direct perception of selflessness that we are inexorably, we have dipped our toe into this stream, and we will reach, from the Abhidharma perspective, we will reach nirvana, right? There's no stopping us. So we are on the way to permanently removing our desire for the desire realm. So the next kind of giving, the second of the 4 kinds of giving, is Shengi Dunshir Jimpa. So the only word that's different here is Shen, and my misspelling of Gi here. Sorry, that's a mistake. I'll fix that. So Shen means other. So it's basically the opposite of Dak. We give for the benefit of someone else. Shen Dun Chir, for the benefit of another. Okay. So the person who does this kind of giving only for the benefit of someone else, of those 2 types of people we just talked about, those who have desire for the desire realm and those who do not have desire for the desire realm. If a person is doing the kind of giving where they're benefiting someone else, what kind of person do you think they are? They're a person who doesn't have desire for the desire realm. So we can say that they are a Pakpa, an Arya, one who has seen selflessness directly. And they're giving to a person who is not free of desire for the desire realm. So when we say Pakpa, or realized being, it's not an enlightened being. It's not an arhat, one who is free of the cycle of suffering in nirvana, but it is one who has seen selflessness directly. They have, there are those who have seen selflessness directly, who have desire for the desire realm still. Yeah, Arya. Thank you. And there are those who have seen selflessness directly, who do not have desire for the desire realm. So seeing selflessness directly doesn't mean that you automatically get rid of your desire for the desire realm. The path, or the realization of renunciation is not automatic from seeing selflessness directly. But the person is on their way to doing so and will likely do so relatively soon. So again, this is from Abhidharma perspective, because if you remember from earlier, if you took an earlier course, we talked about what the path of renunciation is. And it, from Mahayana perspective, it is possible to have the realization of not wishing to be in the desire realm or in the circle of suffering altogether. But here in Abhidharma, they have a different distinction. They have a different way of looking at things. And that's okay. We just have to remember what hat we're wearing, what philosophical hat we're wearing. Okay. So those are the first two, giving for the benefit of ourselves and giving for the benefit of others. The next one is called Nike Dungichir Jimpa. So the different word here is Nika, and that means both. Both. So it's giving for both the benefit of self and the benefit of others. So both the person giving and the person receiving still have desire for desire realm. So both of them have desire for the desire realm. They're both looking forward to some sort of benefit they will experience in this suffering life, in the desire realm. So the only one so far that is doing it for the benefit, the only one so far who is free of desire for the desire realm is the person who is giving for the benefit of another. Okay, everyone else in the other two, the giver is someone who still has desire for the desire realm. And then the fourth of the four kinds of giving is Nike Dun Du Minpe Shir Jempa. So here we're introducing this word minpe. So this changes the last one, giving for the benefit of both, to giving for the benefit of neither. So here we're talking about someone who is free of desire for the desire realm, who is giving to someone who is also free of desire for the desire realm. So it could be one Arya giving something to another Arya. Now, if we talk about the motivation that a person has for giving, there are two general types. One is where you're trying to help someone or benefit someone. Like if I see someone who is hungry and I offer them some food, I'm giving with the motivation to benefit them, to help them relieve their hunger. There's another kind of motivation for giving, which you could also incorporate into giving for the benefit of someone, to help them, is you can give with the motivation to honor someone. So like, well, I just think like in my culture, there's this custom of children bringing an apple to offer to their teacher. Now, a teacher doesn't need like 30 apples, right? So it's not really that the teacher needs this fruit, but it's a way for children to honor their teacher. But you can do both at the same time. Let's say you have a hungry teacher. You could be offering them an apple to help them alleviate their hunger, but also because you are honoring them. You are respecting them. You are showing them respect. And we're going to talk more about respect in a little bit. So we've talked about giving, these 4 types of giving, the 2 kinds of people involved, and different motivations that we can have for giving. So now we're going to talk about how can we make our giving as powerful as possible? How can we make that seed be very potent and strong, and to ripen into something very powerful? And as we talk about this topic, we're going to talk about it from 3 different perspectives. We're going to talk about it in the perspective of the person who's doing the giving, the giver. We're going to talk about it in terms of who we are giving to. So the one receiving the gift. And then we're going to talk about it in terms of the gift itself. What is it that we're giving? So the first one we're going to talk about is how we can make our giving most powerful from the side of the giver as we give. And the first Dalai Lama talks about this using the Pakpe Nordun. Pakpa, again, is an Arya. And Nor means riches. And that'll make sense in a moment. And Dun, with this spelling, means 7. So they're called the 7 riches of the Aryas. You don't have to be an Arya. You don't have to be someone who has seen selflessness directly in order to work on developing these riches yourself. But when you do see selflessness directly and become an Arya, you do have these riches, these 7 riches, these 7 qualities. They're riches because they, well, you'll see as we go through them. They're riches because they make your practice of basically anything you do become more powerful. Whether you are one who's meditating or one who is serving people out in the world, one who is studying, It makes the things you do more powerful, these 7. Okay. So it'll make sense as we go through them. The first one is depa. Depa. And that means faith. And what this is talking about in terms of these 7 riches is an understanding of the good qualities of high objects. Understanding, for example, the high qualities of enlightenment, or meaning to be in nirvana, to be free of mental afflictions that keep us trapped in cycle of suffering. We can equate this kind of faith here with like admiration in someone's extraordinary good qualities. Like if, for myself, when I think of Geshe Michael Roach, I have great faith. I have great admiration for his qualities of being a master teacher and of explaining the teachings well so people can understand and practice them in their daily lives, and for the way he translates so beautifully, and many, many other things, qualities that I see him possessing. So it's like kind of faith that's an admiration, and it's also a kind of faith of like, I would like to be like this person. I wish I had these qualities myself as well. So they call it an educated kind of faith, a faith that comes from knowledge, thinking about the good qualities of someone, thinking about why they're good qualities, thinking about like, what could I do to develop these qualities in myself, like that. The second of the 7 riches of an Arya is, it's this one. It's sultrim. Sultrim. And that means morality or ethical behavior. Avoiding the 10 negative actions. Avoiding as much as possible planting seeds through harming others. Okay. The person who's doing the giving when they have these 7 qualities, and we've just talked about faith and morality, but when they have these 7 qualities, all of their actions become much more powerful. Those seeds that they're planting become much more powerful, much more likely to bear fruit and to ripen, much more likely to ripen more quickly. The third one of the 7 is called Tongwa. Tongwa. And Tongwa is the word for generosity. Tong Semchenpo is a phrase. Oh, I see another mistake. Oh, so sorry. Oh, no, I don't. Never mind. Tong Sem Chempo. That means to give lavishly, to be, you know, uh, if you're making offerings to someone that you very highly regard, um, you give them the best and the most that you can give. Uh, so you don't give, for example, I don't know what you'd say. You don't give one of those little packages of nuts that you get when you go on a plane ride, but you find some nice uh, presentation of a mix of different kind of nuts, and you make it very pretty, and um, you include all the best kind of nuts, like that. You're lavish. You are very generous. You give with this sort of flourish. Flourish. You have this like generosity of heart in giving. It's you don't give with some like wanting to, like, do I really want to give this? I'm not so sure. I might need those nuts later. Um, but okay, you can have them. Not like that. But like, oh yes, please have these nuts. Like the opposite of being stingy. The fourth of the seven riches of an Arya is called tupa. Tupa. And you may have heard this word before when we talk about the three higher trainings, Tu Samgom, learning, contemplation, and meditation. So this Tu is learning, and what it listening, and what it refers to is learning. It literally means hearing or listening, but what it refers to is listening to teachings of the Buddha, listening to teachings of what the Buddha taught about how we can work with our minds to get out of the wheel of suffering, to again, just wearing the Abhidharma hat. So just to get out of the wheel of suffering and to reach nirvana, to be free of negative emotions. We need thousands upon thousands of hours of going to teachings. And Aryas are those who have had many thousands of hours of teachings. They have a good understanding of the different scriptures of the Buddha's teaching. It just takes repetition of going to classes, contemplating them, meditating on them, just over and over. And we should take advantage of going to teachings as often as we can, even if we think we know it all already. So, like, one of the things that an Arya has learned, is this idea of what do they call it? It may be called the circle of the three, but it's where you think about when you're giving, for example, they think about how I am empty. The person I am giving to is empty. And the act of giving something to them is empty. And so what's meant by empty is, I don't have a self nature. The person I'm giving to doesn't have a self nature. I think there's someone who's maybe making some tea or something, their microphone unmuted. So maybe check your microphone settings. So we think about the circle of those three: the giver, the person receiving the gift, and the act of giving. All of those are empty of having a nature from their own side, of having a self from side. So if everyone could please just take a moment and check your microphone setting. There's someone who's making some, sounds like kitchen type noise that is leaking through to all of us. Did it go away? Yeah, it went away. Great. Thank you so much. Okay. So in Arya, when they're, because they have this, these thousands of hours of listening, of hearing the teachings, it comes up for them to think about selflessness as they do their act of giving, which makes that karma, that act, all the more powerful. Okay. The fifth of the seven riches of an Arya is called Ngotsa Shepa. Ngotsa Shepa. So this is, this was also covered in, I can't remember, I'm sorry, if it was in this course or a previous course. They're starting to meld together for me, I'm sorry. But it may have been this course when we talked about the 10 negative actions, but one of the ways that we avoid doing negative actions is that we have ngotsa shepa. We have this mind that is has a sense of shame about doing something negative that harms oneself or someone else, even if no one else is around to witness it. So even if no one else knows, we refrain or restrain ourselves from doing negative actions. And this shame is like based out of an understanding of how that karma works, an understanding that by doing a negative action, it's creating a seed that will ripen into a negative experience. But it's not just that. It's that the shame part of it comes from understanding that every time I do a negative action, I am postponing my future enlightenment. I am letting down every other living being because I'm postponing my enlightenment. Um, so that's the shame that I've just harmed countless living beings. And then the other one, which is the flip side, this is the sixth of the seven riches of an Arya, is called Trel Yupa. Trel Yupa, a person who, it's the feeling of avoiding doing something bad out of consideration for others. They don't want to, they don't want others to, for example, lose faith in the teachings. So for monastics, this is very important state of mind to have, this Trel Yupa, this conscience, this consideration of others. You don't want to do something that cause somebody else to lose faith in the Buddhist teachings just because they saw you did something carelessly or you did something that harmed someone else. And then the seventh of the riches of an Arya is Sharam. Sharam. And that is wisdom, particularly wisdom about selflessness, wisdom that comes from Tupa, from listening to the teachings. Shadow. So those are qualities that we can work on developing through going to the teachings, through contemplating them, through meditating on them, through bringing them into our lives and practicing them. We can develop these seven riches. So that's all from the perspective of the person who's giving. So now we'll go to the perspective of the act of giving. So what are the three qualities of the act of giving that make the karmic result of giving more powerful, that make that seed more powerful? The first one, and I don't have Tibetan for this, so I'll stop this for a moment. The first one is having an attitude of respect for the person you're giving to. So you're not only giving someone something that they need, or you're honoring someone, but you're doing so in a way that's beautiful, you and respectful and graceful. Like, for example, there's the tradition of when you make an offering, you give with both hands. You don't like throw it at them or toss it at them. Like, even when we do fire pujas at the end of retreat, we do this ceremony with a fire, and we make offerings to a fire to purify any negativities that we did during retreat. When we make offerings to the fire, we do it with both hands, and we do it with respect. So like if you like in my country, there are people who don't have homes, and they live on the street basically, and many of them will sit on the street and with a little cup in front of them, So even if you're to give money to someone who's begging, you do it respectfully, gracefully. You have an attitude of respect. The second quality of the act of giving is that you give when it's needed. So if you're giving help, you give what the person needs and you give it when they need it. So, for example, you hear about there was an earthquake on the western side of the Pacific Ocean. So you hear, oh, there was an earthquake. Oh, there's danger of a tsunami, the great wave that could come and really devastate land. And there's all these warnings out right now about tsunami. So, to be on the lookout, is anyone at risk of being harmed by this? How can I help? What can I do right now to help these people who are at risk of being killed or having their homes, their town destroyed? What can I do? How can I help? And you do it then when it's needed. And then the third quality from the perspective of the act of giving is that you don't give in a way that would cause harm. The example that they use in the teachings is giving a goat to a butcher. So when a butcher receives an animal that is typically eaten by people, and their job is to cut animals up into pieces, you wouldn't give a goat to a butcher, because that butcher is creating negative karma for himself or herself by killing and cutting up animals. So it's the same when you're giving. Like, I'm thinking about when in my group of friends, when the first couple had a child and that child was growing up. It was the only child in our group. And so we didn't really know how to be around children. And if you were to give a bunch of candy to this child is going to go like nuts. It's going to get high from sugar and start running and jumping around, and they could potentially harm themselves, and they're definitely going to annoy their parents because they're not going to want to sleep that night. So you wouldn't give we learned, oh no, you don't give a bunch of candy to a child right before bed, for example. You wouldn't give drugs to an addict. You wouldn't give sugar to someone who has diabetes, like that. You're mindful about whether what you're giving is going to benefit or harm someone else. So now we've talked about it from the perspective of the person who's giving, the giver. We've talked about it from the perspective of the act of giving. And now we're going to talk about it from the perspective of who we're giving to. or the object of giving. So I'll go back to my Tibetan sheet here because I have some Tibetan words. So we're going to talk about 4 qualities related to the object of giving, related to the person we are giving to. The first is drowa. What type of being are they? What type of living being are they? We can only see 2 of them, 2 types of beings. We can see humans, and we can see animals. So if just looking at these 2 types of beings, humans and animals, there is a hierarchy in terms of the power given to a type of being. Now, the human being is a more powerful object than an animal. Giving to a human will result in a seed, a karmic seed, having more power than giving to an animal. And it's not because we're, what is that word? Oh, when you think you're better than everyone else. I mean, it's not because we think that human beings are the best because we're human. Human beings are closer to being able to hear the teachings, understand them, practice them, and reach freedom from suffering. An animal doesn't have that kind of intelligence to understand everything about a Buddhist teachings. They may actually understand some. Some animals are very smart, and we see that, but they don't have the kind of intelligence that's required to do everything necessary to get out of the circle of suffering. So, giving to a human, when you're faced with a choice, I have $5. Do I find something to give to a human, or do I find something to give to an animal? Find something to give to a human. That's more powerful. So all of these qualities that we're talking about, of the giver, of the act of giving, and of the object of giving, these are all things that we can think about when we plan our actions. And we talked about with the path of karma, for example, that we have to have this motivation associated with our actions to make the karma complete. It's one of the 4 aspects of making it complete. So all of these qualities we're talking about, the 7 of a giver, the 3 of the act of giving, and the 4 of the person to whom we're giving, those are all just things to add into the mix, to think about as we do our actions. So don't be overwhelmed. Just take it in. As always, think about it, meditate on it, maybe spend some time and dream of what would be the most perfect act of giving I could do, and think about all these qualities and how you can use them to make a powerful karmic seed. But as with all things, with repetition, it will become more into our heart. It becomes part of us and not just an intellectual understanding. Okay, sorry, I distracted myself there, but I think sort of important. So the first of the four qualities of the object of giving is what type of being they are. The second is dugngel, which means suffering. So here, we're all we're mainly doing acts of giving, and everyone's in the realm of suffering. Everyone's in samsara. So here we're talking about obvious suffering. It's more powerful to give some assistance or benefit to someone who is actively suffering. It's more powerful to, for example, to help someone who's just been in a car accident and is in pain or is in danger of losing their life, than it is to help someone get some cold medicine because they've got a head cold. And this goes along with when we talked about giving when it's needed, right? It goes along with that. The third quality of the object of giving, the person to whom we give, is penpa. And you'll see in the reading it's pendolk. It basically means the same thing. Pen means benefit, assistance. So this refers to people who have given you great assistance, and they use as examples your mother and your father are very high objects because the benefit they have given you, and that benefit that they gave you is this human life. They didn't have to be a good parent. They didn't have to read you stories at bedtime. They gave you this human life. That gift, that benefit for you in your journey to enlightenment is the most precious thing. The fourth of the four qualities of the object of giving is yunten. And we talked about this earlier as well. And that means good quality or high spiritual quality. If you, the example here is like, if you go to teachings with the Dalai Lama, who is in the Tibetan Buddhist world, is the person who has, he is the person who embodies all the highest of qualities. And so when you do anything related to him, if you give him something, that seed is much more powerful. than giving to someone walking down the street. Other types, excuse me, of high spiritual qualities, other types of high spiritual qualities would be someone who had just seen selflessness directly. Because they're now on the path, right? They've entered the stream towards getting out of suffering. It could be someone who has just come out of retreat, where they were doing retreat to develop shamatha, to develop single-pointed concentration. So they would be at that moment, especially just coming out of retreat, they possess good spiritual qualities. Okay, that was a lot of information, and guess what? We have a lot more I have to cover because I want to talk about how to purify. Also, how to do purifications. But before we get there, we have to talk about something that, oh, I see someone has a question. Can we just hold off for a little bit on question? I hope that's okay. I will try very hard to leave some time before the end for questions. But this last idea of how to make our actions more powerful is related to this concept of karma being committed or done, and karma that's going to be collected. And they call this lejela sakpa. Je means to do, to commit. La here means and sakpa means collected. So this is a feature of karma. You can have karmas that are committed, done, and collected. You can have karmas that are committed and not collected. The reading that you're going to get also talks about karmas that are not committed and not collected. That makes sense, right? If you don't do something, you're not collecting anything. But there's also karmas that are not committed, but are collected. The reading says that should be clear. It wasn't clear to me, and I haven't been able to talk with Geshe Michael personally about it to find out what those are. It may be talked about, I'm having this little memory or a hint of a memory of in Sugang's book, Sugang Shi, a translation of a book on the wheel of life, which is talking about the 12 links of dependent origination. And I think that maybe in the discussion of karma, because 2 of the links of the 12 links are related to karma, I think that may have been talked about there, or it may have been talked about in Stanley Chen's book on the Abhidharma Kosha. But so anyway, that's one of those that I just put up on the shelf. I'm not going to say, no, it's not possible. I'm going to put on the shelf, learn more about it, and not abandon it there on the shelf. Okay, So six things can make a deed. Okay, I'm going to cover these just mainly by talking about what they are. You can read more about them in the reading. I just want to leave time to talk about how to do purification, okay? Because purification is not in your reading. Okay, so the six actions that make a deed both committed and collected. The first one is that it's, I'll turn this off. Just know that Tibetan is here if you need it, okay? In this document that I share with you. The first action of the six to make it both committed and collected is that it's done with intention. It's done intentionally. The second is that it's done to completion. And what this means is it's referring to a karmic path. Those four parts of a path of karma that make it complete. The basis or the object involved. We talked about this also in class 7. The basis, the thinking involved, what kind of emotion we have, whether positive or negative, the undertaking the action, doing the action, and then completing the action. We actually do the thing we started doing. Those four together. So it's a full karmic path. That's the second of the six for being both committed and collected. The third is that it's done without regret. So when we talk about giving, we don't give so much that we have regret about it later and say, oh, I really shouldn't have done that. That will have an effect on whether that act of giving is as strong as it could have been. To make it stronger, you would have some sort of ownership. I did this, or you would have some sort of happiness about having done it. Take some joy in having done it. The fourth of the six is that they say done without counteraction. And what this means, and it will make more sense as we talk about purification, but you've done the act without having done something that works against what it was you gave. So, for example, if you're doing an act of giving, you don't, while you're giving with one hand, you don't steal with the other. You're not doing an action that would be counter to your act of giving. The fifth one of the six qualities is that it's done with what they call the necessary attendance. So here what they're talking about is there's different ways of thinking about it, but mainly you're talking about having, when you're finished, you say, I did that. You take ownership of having done the action. You don't necessarily have to rejoice. It's just an acknowledgement. I did this. That has some power to it. This is in your reading, so. And then the sixth one is that certain to ripen. And this is more of a, like if you do the previous 5 qualities, then the act is certain to ripen. The karma is certain to be both committed and collected. Collected, meaning it's going to ripen for you in the future. Okay, so now I'm going to change gears and we'll talk about briefly, but we'll talk about purification. And I think you'll notice that a lot of what we talked today about how we make a karma more powerful is leading us to understand, if we do these things, it makes the power of my good deeds more powerful. But if we do the opposite of these things, how can I make my negative seeds less powerful? We can't really purify negative seeds, but when we do what we call purification, what we're doing is that we're damaging these seeds. We are making them weaker. We are making them less likely to ripen. We can make something that would have ripened into a very large or strong negative experience into something that's a very small or weak negative experience. For example, if we purify seeds that we collected by killing ants, those seeds could still ripen if the circumstances are around for them to ripen, but they could ripen as a headache rather than being killed ourselves if we've purified them well. So let's talk about what it means, what we need to do to purify or harm, weaken our negative seeds planted from having done actions that harm others. So there are 4 forces. Sometimes you may see them described as 4 opponent forces. The 4 powers of purification. The first one is called the foundation force. And the foundation, if you think about the Buddha's teachings, the foundation of our practice is taking refuge, taking shelter, seeking protection from the teachings that the Buddha has given. So the power of taking refuge, of taking shelter, not just reciting the words, but thinking about how the teachings on selflessness and dependent arisings or karma, how things don't come at us, but come from us, come from seeds that have ripened into an experience based on what we've done in the past. We take protection in that. We take shelter in those teachings. So it's not just reciting words. The second of the four forces is called destruction force. And the word in Tibetan, which it will be on your sheet, but I won't make you look at it now. It's called Nampar Sun Chimpe Top. And it's a word that means like pulling out from the root. It is a destruction force. Like to rip something out. It's the word they use in Tibetan for rape. And what it means in the practice of purification is the intelligent understanding and acknowledgement of what I have done by doing this negative action to someone else, by harming someone else, will ripen as pain for me in the future. The English word we use for that is regret, but I don't know about in other languages, but regret, maybe it's just my culture, but regret can have this idea of, oh, I'm a bad person. Oh, this sort of putting yourself down. It's not that at all. It's a straightforward, pure, intellectual understanding. I did this, I'm going to have this result. Now, you may feel incredible fear. If the example they give is 3 people go to a bar and the bartender pours them each a drink from the same bottle. The first person takes a drink and then keels over dead. The other 2 people are like, whoa, what just happened? They haven't made a connection between the drink and keeling over dead. The second person takes the drink, falls over dead. Now the third person took the drink at the same time, just right after. That third person sees, oh, they probably say, oh shit, I just did this and I'm going to die. It's this just understanding, a chill in your spine, but it is an understanding that what you've done will bring suffering. Then the third force is called the restraint force, and this is key to purification being successful, to being able to damage those negative seeds. And that is restraining yourself from doing it again in the future. You know, you're relying on your understanding of emptiness and karma. You have regret because you understand that this is going to bring suffering again in the future. So you make a promise that you're not going to do it again, and you actively work to keep yourself from doing it again. Now, the important thing here is that if we have a particular habit or propensity for doing a negative thing, let's say we just tell white lies a lot. We wouldn't say, that's it, I'm never going to tell another white lie for as long as I live. We wouldn't say that because we can't keep that promise yet. So we give ourselves like, okay, for the next 10 minutes after I do this pure act of purification, I'm going to keep myself from telling a white lie to anybody. And you work really hard at keeping it after that. And it doesn't mean that after 10 minutes, you can go ahead and lie all you want. But it means that if you do it again, which you probably will, when you go to purify it the next time, or purify that act of white lie, try and make the time a little bit longer. I'm going to keep myself from telling a white lie for 15 minutes after I do this act of purification. So you're always working to keep yourself from doing the thing that you know is going to bring you suffering in the future because of your understanding of emptiness and karma. Okay. And then the fourth force is called the antidote force. So we had this in the list of 6 to make something a karma committed and collected, was that we didn't do the antidote, right? So here we're doing an antidote. So this is basically what we're doing with an antidote, is that we're doing some positive act that is so powerful that it's more likely to ripen than the negative act that we're trying to clear ourselves from. If that makes any sense. There are different kinds of antidotes. Basically, there are 6 kinds of antidotes you could do. One is I'm just going to list them because we're running out of time. Studying names of Buddhas. The second one is reciting mantra. The third is to read and study scriptures, Buddhist texts. The fourth one, which is the most powerful one, is to meditate on emptiness. And the important thing here is that whatever our current understanding of emptiness is, it doesn't have to be the perfect understanding of emptiness. Whatever understanding we have, we meditate on it. The fifth one is making offerings to a Buddha image. And then the sixth one is using holy images. And that could be having like images on your altar at home, or that sort of thing, before an image of a Buddha. So those are, I'm sorry it was so rushed at the end. Oh, and I thought we had 2 minutes. Darn. So I didn't leave time for questions at the end. I truly apologize. Really, I'm so sorry. So we've left undone dedicating the karma, dedicating the energy that we've created together by studying karma and how it works. I hope that you all finish the readings and do the homework and take the quizzes. If you have any questions, please do ask them in the Telegram chats. I know I've been slow in answering. I'm going to get to that in the next day or two, to answering people's questions, but do feel free to ask questions. Thank you for your attention, your participation, your practice. Truly, thank you. It's an honor to be here with you. Thank you, live translators. You perform magic that I can't even understand. And I'm so, so grateful that you do this magic for us. Thank you, Geshe Michael, for having created these courses. And I love you all. I hope if we haven't met yet, we get to meet in person someday. And I hope we practice together for many, many lifetimes to come. Thank you so much. And have a great day or night, whichever it is. Okay, bye. Oh, please, I know I'm over, but please, if you can, if you can make an offering to Asian Classics Institute to support the work they do in 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 the sharing of these teachings around the world. They're doing incredible work. If you can make an offering to them of resources, time, money, whatever you can do to support them, would be such a great positive action to do. Very powerful object. Okay, thank you.